50 years ago, if you were to ask a child what they wanted to be when they grew up, most of them would say something like a policeman or firefighter or astronaut. These days, if you ask a child, you're going to get a very different response. Maybe somebody will say a TikToker or YouTuber or influencer. They're so enthralled with people like Mr. Beast that that's their dream. As a kid, my dream job was astronomer, geologist, paleontologist. I never even thought about becoming a YouTuber till I got into my late teens. I started my YouTube channel at like 16, 17 years old. And I started that after I actually had been running another YouTube channel with one of my good friends. We had a variety channel. We made some political content on there, some evangelistic content as well. It was a lot of fun. And that led me to the place of wanting to make my own channel where I brought some of my blog posts that were about Christianity, bring them to the YouTube screen. And so I started posting videos on there, not thinking too much of it. I would get excited when a video would get over 50 views because that meant that it was just more than my friends that were watching. At no point really in that time did I think it was even a possibility that one day I would become a full-time YouTuber, but it was only after going to university and realizing that, okay, this isn't for me, that I got a little bit more serious, or a lot bit more serious, about pursuing this YouTube dream. But even still, it wasn't the main thing. It wasn't the plan. I was going to try to create something like BetterHelp, but for Christians. That plan fizzled out really quickly, and what I was left with was this desire and this passion to pursue this YouTube thing a little bit more. I dropped out of university in 2018, and in March of 2023, I became a full-time YouTuber. In today's video, I'm going to share with you the things that I learned, some of the things that I did that enabled me to become a full-time YouTuber after 5 years of being committed to the platform. I know a lot of you have YouTube channels yourselves, or maybe you just aspire to become some sort of content creator one day. I want to encourage you in that and give you the tools that you need to be successful at it, if this is something you truly want to do. And maybe you're not interested at all about becoming a full-time YouTuber. That's totally cool too. And you're just interested in seeing behind the curtain of how this stuff works and how I think about my career as a YouTuber. Now, the first thing I had to do, and thankfully I did this pretty early on in the process, was find my niche. So you need to ask yourself, what is something that I could talk about for days, for weeks, for months? What is something that I'm not going to get tired of? Obviously, there's going to be those days that you're going to be tired and not as motivated, but in large part, hey, what's something that I can continually go back to and be interested in? For me, that's Christianity, that's God, that's Jesus, that's my faith, that's how my worldview interacts with the world, something that I can come back to day and day again and, not get tired of. Now, a lot of people ask, how do I find my voice? The truth is you need to speak. That's how you begin. You just begin by speaking. That's how you find your voice. You never speak if you never start. So you need to begin somewhere. Find your niche, find what you're going to talk about, the area of interest that you have, and start making videos about that. One of the best things that I've found is, hey, if you have a particular niche that you're interested in, look up videos from content creators that are already in that niche. What kind of content are they making? And take that inspiration from those people. Okay, this is how they make their video. I'm going to make a video like that too. And as time goes on, as you're imitating them, you're going to begin to find your own style. And that's what happened for me. There were Christian content creators that I grew up watching and listening to. They were the people that I emulated from early on until I found my own style, until I find, okay, this is my angle about how I do these things. When you ask any YouTuber advice on how to get started or how to grow on YouTube or in social media in general, the number one piece of advice that they will give is consistency. But it's not just about being consistent. I want to add two pieces to this. It's about experimentation and evaluation. So you're showing up a day in, day out, being consistent. Find your routine, find your schedule. Okay, what am I doing? This is what I had to process. Okay, hey, I'm going to post once a week on my Daily Disciple channel, and I'm going to be consistent with it. But I'm not just going to be consistently putting up whatever. I'm going to be consistently experimenting, trying new things, incorporating new aspects to the content, and evaluating how these things are doing. How do I like how they're incorporated in the content? How do the people that are watching, what do their comments say? With that being said, one of the things you need to be cognizant of is when people are giving feedback, not all feedback you should take to heart. Not all feedback is relevant. Have those people in your life that you trust, that you know have your best interest in mind, because people will portray themselves as experts, especially online, and they'll give you this feedback, and you, if you're a nice guy or a nice girl and you feel like, okay, they must be right about this, and maybe you're a little bit insecure, you might accommodate to every piece of advice, or might overwhelm you and criticism when you take that in. You don't need to feel like you need to take every little piece of that in, especially if you're generally more of a hypercritical person or you have high expectations of yourself. What I've found is generally my expectations of my content surpass everybody else's criticism. So when somebody points out something, it's not something new to me necessarily. It's like I kind of already know that's something I need to work on. So it's helpful to hear those things, and occasionally they'll bring up something that you hadn't thought about. You just need to know who you are personally. Are you somebody that really thinks highly of yourself and maybe you're not super cognizant of your own faults and areas you need to improve? Hey, maybe then being more intentional about getting that feedback and criticism is important. But maybe if you're personally somebody that has already super high expectations of yourself, then a lot of the time it's just being consistent and trying to improve off each piece of content. Now, the other important cycle that I need to introduce you to is the consumption creation cycle, right? If you are consistently creating things, you need to be consistently consuming things. This is just how it works. In my perspective, if you're not taking in good books, good movies, good YouTube videos, things that are inspiring you, if you're not watching the news, you're not staying up in current events, you're not having really thorough and interesting conversations with people, then you're not really going to have a lot to process in your content. So many of the ideas that I have are stirred up by reading interesting books or having conversations with people. So you need to make sure that you're giving yourself that space to have that time to consume. That's part of the work. You can't always be creating. If you're always creating, you'll have nothing left. Your cup will be empty. And this is the other element that we need to add to this cycle is rest. So we have this consumption period, we have this creation, and then we have rest. And then you do it all again, consumption, creation, and rest. And if you don't have the rest element, you're going to get burnt out. That's what I found in my own life. You're constantly in a cycle of, okay, you make something, okay, on to the next. Okay, then consume, then create, then on to the next. You need this place of rest. One of the things that I've incorporated in my life is Sundays, I don't work at all. No work. And that's just created a place where I know, hey, I don't need to think about it. I'm going to think about everything else going on in my life. I'm not even going to be thinking about ideas or writing things down. I can wait till Monday. One of the best pieces of advice I've heard recently was from Gary Vee. And that might be surprising for some of you. And some of the things I agree with Gary Vee on, and some things I just think are hilarious. But he said that people are drawn to somebody that is enthusiastic over somebody that is an expert. And I think about that a lot. Even when I think about my own YouTube channels, I'm not an expert on a lot of things. Like, I'm not the best theologian. I'm not a super, Bible wise guy. I don't know. I'm just like a young guy who's still trying to figure out things, in a lot of ways. But what I do have is enthusiasm. I'm passionate about, in my daily disciple channel, talking about Jesus, talking about my faith. On this channel, I'm passionate about, talking through what it means to be a man and what I'm learning. And those things excite me. And nobody expects me to come on here and be an expert at something. Like, that's not who I am. That's not who I try to portray myself to be. But it's about that enthusiasm. So if you are enthusiastic and passionate about something, that goes a lot further than trying to be an expert. And if you have this expectation of yourself that you need to be an expert at something before you start talking about it, then I think that's just a little bit of a wrong expectation. It's one thing if you paint yourself to be an expert and you're not an expert. That's a problem. Some people do that. They'll get on social media and they'll say, oh, I know all about this. I know exactly. I'm completely right about everything, here, and and yet they're not really an expert. And so it's like, okay, well, settle down there, boy. But if you're just coming on talking, hey, that's okay. You don't have to have everything figured out. There's lots of grace, and we're just having a conversation here online. Okay, this is one of my biggest pet peeves. All the time, I hear people talking about, I want to start a YouTube channel, or I want to start posting on Instagram, or I want to start making TikToks, or I want to make this kind of content, or whatever. And they're like, one day I'll do it. One day, in 6 months or in a year when I get these things figured out, I'm going to start doing it. And I'm just like, what are you doing? Start now. If you wait for 6 months till you're ready, till you have enough time, or you have enough, space, or you have enough ideas, it's never going to be time. You just need to start. My first 3 years of YouTube videos were garbage. I can't even watch them. They're so embarrassing. Even my first 4 years of YouTube videos, honestly, are really somewhat tough to watch. It's only recently that I feel like I'm actually making content that I'm really proud of. But even still, there's things in my content that I'm like, oh, I got to improve in this and do better in this. So just begin. Hey, it's not going to be perfect, but that's going to be okay. Let me know in the comments down below if you're interested in me sharing more about this stuff. And until next time, keep pursuing the mission.